Welcome back, folks. Video 28 on the Land Rover. It's the steering box this time. So it goes steering wheel all the way down through the steering column to the steering box, and there's a little arm that pokes out the bottom that pushes another arm forward and back. I'm going to be restoring that in this episode. So first, removing it from the bulkhead, and now we're into cleaning it up, just scraping some of this muck off to start with. It's oil that's leaked out, mixed with dirt, basically. And it's pretty well on there. 45 years it's been in the making, so it's well established. So I'm just getting the little arm off here with what looks like a ball joint puller, I think, yeah. Dirty. Really dirty, look at that. So I'm secondary to the camera in some of these shots. A bit of a faff having the tripod there, but it has made much better footage. I'm quite pleased with it. And instead of taking hyperlapse, I took videos this time. So it did take a lot longer handling all the footage, huge files, you know. But I'm pleased with it. I think it's made a better looking video. Let me know what you think, but it is a lot more effort. So again, your camera is right in the action here, cleaning this up with petrol, but I didn't want to know the oil that's on there, God knows what, is very well on there. So the wire wheel and the drill came in handy, a bit more gentle than the angle grinder. But you can see that's worked well on this aluminium part. No paint to go on this one, it'll just stay shiny aluminium. Next up, it is back to what 80% of every restoration is, which is grinding rust. It is no fun. I'm telling you, it's no fun. But it is the majority of a restoration. I guess, like, I haven't had to do any rust repairs on a lot of this stuff, all these parts. It's just to clean up and paint, so it could even be worse. But here it is anyway. Lots of cleaning. Bloody cleaning. More dust, more noise. But it is here for your satisfaction. I'm doing it so you don't have to. And I'm very pleased with the results. Right, this is the bearing that you get in the repair kit. And of course it is very hard to see. Now you can see it, there you go. Pitting in there, look, in the bottom of that groove. Yeah, you can see it. It's the beginnings of it, it's not too bad, but the parts are Britpart, I think, the replacement bits, so I will put them in, because this has got pitting, so any case hardening it had is gone through. So the Britpart part ought to be better quality than what's left of this, really. Yeah. So I assume the other one's the same. So the kit comes with new balls. So there's the big balls which go in the nut, essentially. That's the thing which rides on this enormous ball thread. So you get new big balls and you get new little balls. The little balls, some of which are there, like the rest of which are up in there, and some over there. They go in this bearing part here, and which butts up against that surface there, which can't be replaced, and is also pitted. So not ideal, but what do? This time, instead of filming from the back end of the garage, I filmed in the workshop, and you can see me taking the gun out of the vise and then revising it with my knee, look, as I paint those individual parts. Most of them hanging on steel welding wire, so I can paint both sides of them in one go. So just 2 coats instead of turning things over and waiting a period of time between. Okay, steering column covers and the little bits. So that's ready to reassemble that steering column when that has had a second coat and it's dry. Right, this is the good bit of restoration, like getting a Lego kit at Christmas. I love looking at all these parts ready to go together. And here's the fun, actually, trying to figure out how they go back together. This is pretty simple. I could explain how this goes back together with my eyes closed, but actually doing it is very much more difficult. You've got 2 bearing cups and cones, like on a really old bicycle where the bearing cups and cones come apart and the balls fall everywhere. It's just like that. But the cups, which slide into the aluminium casing, they're quite a loose fit, and they're held in by the steering column on one end and a plate on the other end. So it's very easy for them to kind of fall out if you nudge it or something. Then all the balls fall into the steering box, and like, oh, I've got to do it again. And then there's grease everywhere, and you've got to re-grease it, and it's a faff. It's a pain in the arse. So I did this quite a number of times before I finally got there with it. So after a lot of cursing, I mean, God, this is a horrible job. I managed to get all 10 ball bearings in there. That's in place. And all 10 bearings are in there, and that's in place. I'm going to whip that cover on the back end here, just temporarily, so I can get that top cover on and bolt that up permanently. Then I can start messing around with shims on this side. Let's keep going. But I do have a little secret about this work, and I'll tell you about it at the end of the video if you want to stay tuned. It's like one of those like grim realities. Don't believe what you see. It's not all true, you know. It didn't just go together perfectly. I'll explain at the end. Right, here we are, folks. The first thing then is to set the preload on these bearings. I've put the shims in and the gasket, and I've tightened it up with 2 bolts. What I found with previous things like this on the gearbox is when you put this, when you put the gasket sealer in there, it brings it out just that fraction more, and the preload will be probably just right. So I'm finding at the moment it's just a fraction tight. I can turn it fairly easily, but I can feel it's a little bit knotty. So I'm going to do a gasket on all surfaces. So there'll be with the gasket, gasket sealer on all surfaces with the gasket and 2 shims. That's going to create quite a bit of extra, and it should be just right. And then that section will be set, then I can put this one in. Let's get on with it. Right, so off comes the end, on goes the sealer. It's Hylamar blue in this case, and then back it all goes together. So now that's on, the preload feels great, and I've got these 2 nipped up nicely. So these bolts, they have a drilled hole that goes right through, so oil will leak through past the threads. So I'm going to go double whammy. I'm going to put thread lock on the threads themselves, and I'm going to put instant gasket under the head of the bolt as well. So hopefully that will stop any leaks. I've got to do this on these 4 bolts and these 4 up top here, and then tighten those all in place and check that tension again. Then I can start working on this lot. Right, sometimes this happens. I don't press record or something, and I've done the whole job. So annoying. So that's on loosely in case I have to take this off to get it through the chassis. That back plate is now on, so you've seen me assemble all the rest of this. Anyway, you slot that through that thread in there. Bolt this on with the bobbin. Looks like a bobbin in a slot in here. That was a little bit difficult to get in. And then wind that in until you remove the slot from here. So I've got it in a happy medium. There's a tiny bit. It's perfect, really. You want it, I find it with wheel bearings, you want it just a fraction the loose side of perfect, and then you're pretty good, really. The bearings will be sat nicely in the correct place. That's it. It goes from there to, there we go, all the way down as I rotate the column. There's no tight bits or anything, so I'm quite pleased with it, really. And there's that. So it swings from there to there, and because this sits at 45 degrees, that means the arm on the chassis will do 45 that way and 45 back, which gives you the maximum forward and aft movement of the lever. That is done and ready to go on. Yeah, baby, there's a little more parts cleaning to do now. There's a pot of bits here. Where are they? Here we go. Which are the fasteners which go through these galvanised uprights and into the bulkhead. So those ones need cleaning up, and then I'll whiz them in, get the doors back on briefly to get the gaps perfect before tightening those down, and then really I can start putting stuff on here, and then get these things cleaned up and painted and fitted, and the accelerator linkage, which is still on there because I need to remember how it goes back together. And then really the front side of the bulkhead's done. I'm onto the dashboard and the electrics, and it's coming together. Here it is, folks, in all its beauty, finished, assembled, and ready to put on the vehicle. Very satisfying too. Look at that thing. Ain't she sweet? If you can name that film, leave it in the comments. Anton will get it. Right, it's time for the dirty little secret. The bearings. Ugh. Well, you'll see. Here you go. Here's a clip. Well, it is together. We've got a problem though. I mean, these aren't tightened all the way up, but whatever. That's with it pinching the bearings so there's no end float. We've got a huge gap there. So these are the 2 shims that came off the assembly. And we've now got, I don't know, 3mm gap or something like that. So I assume the parts Britpart have sent don't fit very well or something. I don't really understand what's going on. But it ain't happy. And it ain't going to work like that. Ugh. So what I did is I put in the original bearings. That is the dirty little secret. Those 2 bearing cups that came Britpart parts were too thick. So send them back or just shove it back together. Well, I found slight pitting damage in the old cups that came out, but I found much worse damage on the actual spindle, where there's that huge screw, you know, the main shaft that goes up in the middle of the steering column, and they're 280 odd quid or something to replace. So we can't replace it. So in actual fact, those will get worse far more rapidly than the cups, because it's a smaller contact area on those, because they're on the inner side of the ball bearings contact. The cups are on the outer side, so they're going to last longer as it is. So actually, there was no detriment to not putting those new cups in. The damage on the shaft, on the cones, if you like, is worse, and that will be the limiting factor of how long this thing lasts. It's not great, but it's serviceable. It feels smooth. It's working fine. Yeah. Ideally, you'd want to replace those bearings with better ones, actual decent ones. I don't know if you can get Timken versions of these, and replace the entire shaft, and then it would be like new. But as it is, the shaft is not replaced, so the thing isn't going to do very many miles. It'd probably be fine for years and years and years. But it's slightly depressing, but that's the way it goes. The owner's getting a bit... we spent enough, so I was never going to be able to spend the best part of £300 fitting all the new parts that it actually needs in there. So there we go. The reality of the internet, and another channel I watch, My Boosted Life. Yeah, he alluded to it recently. He said it's never as good as it looks on YouTube, and absolutely right. And this is my little instance of it in this video. So that's all for this one. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying it. Next video, I get this and a load of other parts fitted to the bulkhead. Very satisfying work. The better end of a restoration with all the painting and grinding behind me. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.